So officially, the Board of Peace, the names are rolling out, and some of the names that I've talked about already, and I have some surprises as well. But let's look at this video, and then we're going to get more into this and how this directly ties into biblical prophecy.
Listen up. So Trump finally released the names of the people that are on the Board of Peace. First off, we have Tony Blair, who is the former UK Prime Minister. And we have Marco Rubio, which is the US Secretary of State. We have Steve Witkoff, who is the US Special Envoy to the Middle East. Of course, Jared Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law. Billionaire Mark Rowan, and the CEO of Apollo Global Management. Gotta have those technocrats in there. We also have Ajay Banga, however you say it, president of the World Bank. He's advised a number of senior U.S. politicians, including Barack Obama. But this one is strange. Robert Gabriel. He's the U.S. National Security Advisor. And I can't find one pic of this man. No pictures. So that's suspicious. I wonder when he will be revealed. And then this creepy one named Nikolai Mladenov or whatever, a Bulgarian politician and former UN Middle East envoy. Now what I really want to talk to y'all about is what Trump said. As chairman of the Board of Peace, I am backing a newly appointed Palestinian technocratic government. Now I made a video about this last week because nobody has recently talked about this. A technocracy is the government or control of society or industry by an elite of technical experts. This guy right here is Joshua Haldeman, and he is the grandfather of Elon Musk. He created Technocracy Inc. and believed in this thing called the Technate of America. In 1943, Haldeman joined the Social Credit Party of Canada. He believed North America should be ran by technocrats and that we should have Greenland, Canada, the United States, Mexico, and Venezuela, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing, or trying to do. And with this system, they wanted to give everyone a energy distribution card. There would be some kind of universal basic income, and everyone would be given an energy allotment amount. And you could not go over that. It would be attached to this card. Computers weren't big back then, but with the computers, this would be perfect. So now they're literally talking about doing it in Palestine. And if they're bringing this to Palestine, how long do you think it'll be until they bring it to the United States? Don't forget what this person said the other day.
Davos, we know there's the big housing speech. What else can we anticipate?
There's also going to be some look at the new world order that President Trump is creating. And,
not to mention on the 21st of January, Donald Trump will be giving the keynote at Davos at the World Economic Forum about what? This new world order. But yes, some of y'all will cheer this on like it's a good thing, even though Christians with discernment know what's coming.
Now, before we get more into this, there's a lot to unpack. Guys, in fact, let me scroll back really quickly because I want you guys to see this. I don't think you paid attention. Look at this map. Look at this map, guys. Now, George Orwell predicted this map. There's several other people that have predicted this map. What we are seeing unfold right now. And if you know anything about George Orwell's 1984, we will have to get into all the other things that predicted this. And when they also said that this will be bringing in the New World Order. By me saying New World Order, I can guarantee you guys, I'm going to get some type of like Wikipedia or whatever thing below this video. Maybe not. Maybe it depends on how I title it or not. But isn't that interesting? And then isn't it interesting that everyone has this universal identification card and it will tie into your carbon emissions, how much carbon intake or emissions that you can have in a day? What have I told you? That is part of the 2030 agenda for the World Economic Forum, which President Trump is the keynote speaker for on, I guess, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Davos, their big conference every year. And we know all the other things, if you guys have been following me, what they want. Essentially, we are talking about tribulation times, like everything you could possibly think of, that there will be no more jobs, that there will be no more cell phones. Elon Musk and the Nokia CEO said that by 2030, no more cell phones, everything will go to the Neuralink in your brain. They have said that universal, this card as well, universal high income, but theirs was basic income, but now it's high income. But I'm like, high compared to who if everyone is making the same? Okay. I mean, guys, the list goes on, but I just wanted to highlight that if you have not been paying attention, or if you kind of skipped over that point, I think these two things were very important. Now, speaking of New World Order, a lot of people were upset when they heard the Prime Minister of Canada say this.
Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade. The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order. Mine is the first.
So a lot of people were upset about this and saying that he was talking about the partnership with China is going to be the new world order. But the Board of Peace, which they have specifically said, President Trump has said himself that it is not just about Gaza, that essentially this board is going to be ruling the world, making, like, they're going to be the ones that decide peace deals, trade deals, everything you could think of between countries and nations. But I think it's going to be between kingdoms as predicted in the Bible. But let's continue down this path. So right when I sat down to make this video, you have the list of all those people. But then now it says President Trump has invited Argentina's right-wing president, Javier Milei, as a founding member of the Gaza Peace Board. Absolutely epic. Milei is a great ally. This is well-deserved. And he has accepted. So he made a post where he has accepted it. I have not heard anything yet about Keir Starmer. He hasn't been announced yet, but it was in pretty much all the papers that he has accepted a spot on the board. I don't know where that's going to fall, right? But I know I told you guys that Tony Blair was going to be part of it. And I want you to hear something. If you haven't seen it, I have played this many times before, but it is very crucial that you hear it again.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't. How are they going to do that without vaccine passports? Now, this is back in 2023, right? Okay, so now this man is on the Board of Peace and essentially being a founding member or one of the possible 10 kings. I cannot guarantee that this Board of Peace is the 10 kings, guys. I can't. But I know the language and the things they've said, and I seeing all the things and how they tie into biblical prophecy. And this is the thing that makes sense. And most people believe it is. Okay. But I leave room to be wrong, but understand, regardless, this is what we're dealing with here. How are they going to know it? Well, we already know what they want. Okay. Bill Gates said that by 2028, if you don't have a digital ID, you won't be able to function in society. Part of that digital ID is having a vaccine passport within it. And of course, I have unveiled and I have shown you guys the mark of the beast technology. I do not believe Neuralink is actually the mark of the beast. I could be wrong, but I believe it is the patch that Bill Gates has come out with where it inserts, you put it on the skin and it inserts quantum dots under the skin as well as a QR code so that you can buy and sell, literally, so that they can scan it and know that you have your vaccine. Okay. And it can go either on the right hand or the forehead. So we are seeing these things unveil and roll out. And if you have not seen all the things I've shown you that people from the WEF have said, the World Economic Forum, it's mind blowing that they have been saying these things and no one's paying attention to it, or they think that can't possibly happen when we are seeing this stuff roll out right now. Like all of it is happening right now. So understand, when people say, well, we're not part of the WEF. Oh, we're not? But Tony Blair is on this Board of Peace, and that's part of who is going to rule, essentially, the world. Okay. Now, I played this video before. This is coming from my friend Sheesh. You guys know we did a video together. I will link his channel below. He does a lot of great Bible studies. He keeps it very neutral, but just tries to analyze the Bible and tie it to real world things that are happening, just like I do. I think he does a better job than I do. So I want you to listen to him and break this down. And this video is from December 5th. So it's old, it's, you know, a month old, but it breaks down what the 10 kings will be, right? And what they represent in the Bible. Okay. And this is, if you are a Christian, you need to understand, this is monumental. This is huge. I think, like I told you in another video, I'm going to break down the whole of what is going on with Canada, Greenland, and Venezuela, and how that is being set up as a kingdom as well. Okay. And we're going to see more and more of this movement all around the world, as well as the birth pains. I have some updates on my little orbs that I told you guys about. Some of you guys are just like, Melanie, you're nuts. But a lot of people, and I'm surprised, I would say, I mean, a huge amount of the comments are people who have seen these things for themselves and they've just never said anything, or they didn't know how to talk about it. And so I am actually happy to hear that from you guys, because I know I'm not crazy, and neither are well, I've seen hundreds of other videos. I won't say thousands, but hundreds of other videos of people, you know, just going about their daily life, and these things show up and you're just like, what is going on? But I want to break down and show you some footage, how they look like sometimes like Ezekiel wills as in the Bible. But let's listen to what Sheesh has to say.
So how do I make this video without sounding crazy? Because I don't want to sound crazy. I'm going to try to present this information to you from a very neutral standpoint. And I want you to just see what's going on in the world, and I want you to see what's going on in the Bible. And this is all connected to end times things. Namely, we're going to be talking about 10 kings. But again, I am not going to be making any claims about anything. I want you to be the judge, because we all have an opinion, but we're just doing the best that we can to try to see what is going on in the world. We are called to be watchmen and watchwomen on the wall. And so with that in mind, as we are watching, what are we watching for? Well, signs of the times. So let's get on into it. But as of today, December 5th, Trump is going to be announcing the transition to phase 2 of the Gaza peace deal, Board of Peace, by Christmas. And so remember the Board of Peace that he introduced? He did it like a month or two ago.
Sorry, I just want to say that was the original time. It was supposed to be by Christmas, but it got delayed. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what was going on behind the scenes, but this is why we're seeing it roll out as of now, right before Davos at the World Economic Forum.
He did it like a month or two ago. So now we have to watch and pay attention to this thing that is trying to take a form of some kind. And the thing that is taking some kind of form is referred to as the Board of Peace, and it is being chaired by President Trump. But this Board of Peace that is being chaired by President Trump is going to contain approximately 10 leaders from Arab and Western countries. Now, I highlighted the word approximately because that's an important word to pay attention to, approximately. So if it is exactly 10 leaders, well, that's different than approximately. But if it's 15 leaders, then you can throw this out the window. But what I want you to understand is that if it is 10 leaders, then that does connect well with Daniel. Because in Daniel chapter 7, Daniel is having this vision, and he sees a lion, he sees a bear, he sees a leopard, and all of those animals are representation of past empires. They're past empires, the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greek Empire. But then in Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, Daniel starts looking at another animal or another beast, but he doesn't give it any animal-like characteristics. And so this beast is standing out from all of the other beasts. But one of the things I want you to pay attention to is that what Daniel writes down is that he describes this beast as having 10 horns. Now, these 10 horns, if you continue reading in Daniel chapter 7, are identified to being 10 kings. And so now that you have 10 kings, well, what do we do with verse 8 where he sees another horn coming up? This is a little horn. And so this little horn that you see right here, this little horn is the antichrist that Daniel is writing down about. And so this goes back to the Board of Peace, because if it's approximately 10 leaders, Well, now I'm really interested, because if it's approximately, well, that means that there's 10 and then there's plus 1, which would be chaired by President Trump. Or if it's exactly 10, well, then that changes things, because what's going on there? And so this is, all speculation at this point, but this is something that I consider to be relevant in our world today. And so if we focus on what we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, what we know is that there is going to be a fourth kingdom that rises up, that at some point in those stages, that it's going to take different stages, at some point in that fourth empire, there's going to be a stage that involves 10 kings. They're going to be 10 kings that are in control of the entire world. And so while those 10 kings are ruling, then a little horn emerges, and then he subdues 3 of those kings. And so we never know what the future holds, or what it's going to look like, or who's going to be who, or what's what, and all of those things. But what we can do is we can look at the Word of God, and we can look at the world, and we can do the best that we can do to see where we're at in this prophetic timeline. And so allegedly, there's going to be approximately 10 leaders, and it's going to be a mixture of Arab and Western countries. Now, again, why I think that this is so interesting is not just because of that. That is not the only evidence that is on the plate right now. The other evidence is what's going on over in Israel, because Netanyahu made the statement that he is fighting all of these people here. And after he recognizes that he's fighting them, he's like, this is never going to end. It's never going to end. And so Israel is in a position right now where they are looking for a way to maintain peace. And so they are actively looking for peace. They want peace. And so that is setting the stage beautifully for a peacemaker to emerge. And speaking of peace, Trump put his own name on U.S. Institute of Peace ahead of the Rwanda-Congo peace deal that just took place yesterday. And if you see all the way down here, you see it is no longer the Institute of Peace. It is the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. And Marco Rubio stated on that, he said, President Trump will be remembered by history as the president of peace. It's time our State Department display that. Now, I'm not saying that the 10 leaders or the Board of Peace is a fulfillment of prophecy. I'm not saying that. But when you observe it taking place real time right now, and you know what's in the Bible, the parallels, they're hard to ignore. So to summarize, we have a world leader that is organizing a global council. We have a crisis that is taking place over in the Middle East that is surrounding Israel, which is where God's name is. And then we also have calls for peace and security, or peace and safety, all the time. And so if you are a student of the Bible, after seeing what we just talked about in this video, we must come to our own conclusion. And people are going to have different conclusions on this. And so it doesn't matter. This kind of stuff is secondary. I think it's very important to be mindful of what's going on in the world, which is why I watch. But the primary thing is always going to be the primary thing, and that's telling people about how they can get to heaven. Because we know what is coming, and so since we know what is coming, don't you think it is very, very wise to tell people how they can avoid going through what is coming? And so that is why I would propose to you to, regardless of all these things that we talked about here in this video, I want to stir you up to share the gospel. I want you to tell people how they might be saved. And that is by recognizing that Jesus is God's son, that he led a sinless life, that he died on the cross for our sins, that he was buried and rose again on the third day. That right there is the gospel, which can be found in 1 Corinthians 15. And we are saved by grace through faith. And that not of ourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. So let me know what you guys think about this. I think it's very interesting. I've tried to be neutral on the entire thing, but I am definitely going to be paying attention to see how this plays out.
And let me just read something. I just typed in the 10 kings into Google, right? And so it's just showing the verses and all of that talk about it. But it says the 10 kings, in fact, let me show it on the screen. So it says the 10 kings in the Bible refer to prophetic figures in Daniel 7 and Revelation 17, symbolizing rulers of a future revived Roman Empire who grant power to the antichrist for a short time. he's actually going to not have power. He's only going to have power for 3.5 years because he comes directly in the middle of tribulation. That's when he rises. Okay. Ultimately waging war against God before being defeated by Jesus. And I just want to look at this last part right here. It says, talking about the 10 kings, they represent powerful political forces that coalesce to establish a one world government under the Antichrist. They serve God's ultimate purpose by setting the stage for the Antichrist's rise and subsequent defeat by Christ. Now we know that when the 10 kings, the one who will rise is not going to be the most prominent person, because it says a little horn, right? Kicks off 3, a little horn, right? Meaning someone who is not as prominent is going to kick out 3, and then that's when the Antichrist will rise. And so I just want us to pay attention. There's a lot more I can give details about this, how in the Bible it says that when you hear them say peace and safety, but safety also translates to peace and security, peace and safety, that sudden destruction will come. And that is, guys, I am not kidding you. This entire, all of last year and right now, all you see is peace and security, peace and security. They're talking about on the news. All the politicians are saying it. Peace, 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 safety, 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 security, security. All this, in fact, it's on placards, it's in speeches, it's on official documentation. And it goes with a lot of things, but specifically with the board of peace. And those words specifically, Jesus says, when they say these, when we see these words, that suddenly, okay, that this is going to usher in that he's near, that there is going to be utter destruction. It's going to come quickly when we start to hear that. And that is one of the signs that we are to look for as for Christ returning. Right. So I read to you guys the other day, Luke 21. I didn't go through it all. Like I said, we're probably going to do a Bible study. Maybe I'll do Bible study tomorrow. We could just peel through a bunch of this right at once so you guys can have a better understanding. But yeah, that's what we have so far. Again, I cannot confirm that this is absolutely the 10 kings of the Bible, but it fits it pretty well. And if there's more people than 10, understand there seems to be a board of peace, and then there's like an executive board that's kind of like off to the side or governing it. But so we're not going to know till everything is announced, but let me know what you think, guys. Leave a comment below. Make sure you subscribe and also hit the notification bell. I got a lot more to share. And yeah, I will see you on the next one.